What's going on, my fellow hunters? With each passing month, we are drawing closer to the release of the highly anticipated Monster Hunter Wilds. And as with every game in the series, we always get to see some monsters return from previous entries. So, here are my top 10 most wanted monsters that I want to see in Monster Hunter Wilds. Number 1. Glavenus. Okay, so if you've been around my channel for a while, this one here was an obvious choice. I'm 100% a Glavenus stan, no shame about it. I think it's the coolest monster in the entire series, and as a creature concept artist myself, I believe it's one of the best designed monsters I've ever seen in any franchise. And even though we did get to see it make its triumphant return in Iceborne, I want more. I want to see this blazing theropod in high quality detail thrashing its massive greatsword tail across my screen. I love everything about this dino, from its Carnotaur-inspired aesthetic to its genius theme of incorporating the best weapon in the entire series into its damn tail. It's an automatic choice for me. Now with that said, if we're getting down to the real specifics, what I want most is the deviant form of this beast, the Hellblade Glavenus, just because it takes the standard design and cranks up the badass factor to even greater heights. It's the absolute pinnacle of everything I love about Capcom's monster designs. So please, I beg of you, Capcom, give us the Blazing Black Knight in Monster Hunter Wilds. Number 2. Gammoth. Now, this is a monster that I feel has a really high chance of making its return to the series here with Wilds. I always felt like it was a huge missed opportunity not having Gammoth in Iceborne, but I completely understand that the locale just didn't have large enough environments to suit this massive snow-clad behemoth. But since Wilds is going to have much more of that large, open world theme, there shouldn't be any excuse as to why we don't get that fanged beast. I've always been fond of the creatures in this series that don't have any real dragon-like aesthetics to their designs. I've always welcomed more large, mammalian-type beasts just because they aren't as common in the series, and I feel like there's just so much untapped potential there. And I love me some prehistoric megafauna from the Ice Age, so Gammoth for me is an absolute top-tier creature in the series. I can just imagine what it would be like to ride into a vast frozen tundra with my sacred mount and come across this gargantuan beast. It would just be so damn epic, and I want to experience tons of moments like that in such a large and ambitious game like Wilds is shaping up to be. Number 3. Lagiacrus. A big time favorite amongst the entire Monster Hunter community, myself included, this is another creature that I feel like is an absolute must to include in Wilds. A lot of people were disappointed we didn't get to see this thunderous Leviathan in Monster Hunter World, especially since the earliest footage of that game had shown off Lagiacrus before ultimately being scrapped. I think the developers said at the time it was just too difficult to rig the skeleton and animations or something like that, but as we know, Balahara, which is one of the new monsters showing up in Wilds, has a very similar skeletal structure to the Great Lagiacrus, so I feel like there's no excuse now to not include it in the game. It's a fantastic creature design with really cool elemental attacks and attributes, and definitely one of my favorites in the entire series. So I'm really hoping Capcom gives the fans what we want and brings back the Lord of the Seas. Number 4. The Morans. Now, this is like a 2-for-1 here because ultimately I think the most important thing is that I just want to experience an epic battle aboard a sand ship taking on one of these kaiju-sized beasts. Personally, I like Gen Moran's design slightly more, so I would prefer it to Duran Moran, but I would be happy with either one. As someone who never got to personally experience the gameplay of taking on the Morans and only seeing YouTube videos of the encounter, I would really love the opportunity to face them in Wilds. I think they would fit perfectly here just because of how expansive the locales will be, and because we've already seen a desert biome and even gotten a brief shot of the sand ship in one of the trailers. I feel like this one is a no-brainer really, and it's always refreshing to have some encounters that are different from what you typically experience throughout the game. Number 5. Monoblos. Between the two main ceratopsian-like wyverns in the series, I've always preferred this dude over Diablos. I just think its face looks way better, honestly. And since Diablos has gotten tons of love lately with appearances throughout various games and even that live-action movie that doesn't need to be spoken about, I feel like Monoblos' time to shine is now. The only Monster Hunter game that I've played where it made an appearance was Monster Hunter Stories 2, which, by the way, I really hope we get a sequel to, since it's a better Pokemon game than any actual Pokemon game that's been released in the past decade. So I would really like to see this horned wyvern erupting from the desert sands in Monster Hunter Wilds. Number 6, Tetsukabra. A personal favorite of mine, this demon frog is one of the absolute coolest looking amphibian designs I've seen. I just love bulky, mean looking creatures that have giant tusks. A lot of my own creatures I design have that style of aesthetic as well. In general, I feel like the amphibian type monsters in the series are some of the coolest overall. They're all great looking creatures, it's just unfortunate that there are only a handful of them throughout the entire 20 plus years that the franchise has existed. I love the newest addition to the series with Chattacabra, who has already become a favorite of mine, so if we could get at least another 1 or 2 amphibians in Wilds, I would be ecstatic. And having this dude in the game would make up for the fact that it wasn't a tameable monstie in Monster Hunter Stories 2, which I feel was an absolute tragedy. Give me them froggies, Capcom. I want them. Number 7, Yukonlos. This shovel-faced tyrant of the ice is another creature in the series that I've only been able to admire from afar since I've never had the opportunity to face it in-game. And just as I had mentioned earlier about Wilds being the perfect time to bring back Gammoth, I feel the same with this armored titan. I absolutely love how its design bears a resemblance to one of my favorite species of prehistoric fish, the Dunkleosteus. Its heavily armored carapace is lined with jagged ridges, and its massive jaws look like they could crush even the mightiest of monsters' bones. Yukonlos is the perfect style of monster that I would just love to bonk on the head with a mighty hammer and break off chunks of that heavily armored white carapace. Number 8, Akantor. If I'm going to have Yukonlos on this list, it's only fitting to have its counterpart, the infernal black god, Akantor. Long before I ever got into actually playing any games in the Monster Hunter series, this dude here was the very first monster that I was ever introduced to. I still vividly remember going down the YouTube rabbit hole like over 15 years ago and stumbling onto this volcanic monstrosity. I thought it was one of the coolest looking creature designs I had ever seen, and I had zero clue about what Monster Hunter even was. I was just like, wait, there's this video game series where you battle tons of these awesome looking beasts while wielding these crazy over the top weapons and sporting the armor that you craft from their dead bodies? Why have I not heard about this or ever even seen the games on the shelves at GameStop? Fast forward to current days, and now Monster Hunter has become one of my favorite video game franchises. So I would absolutely love to see Akantor here make its triumphant return with Monster Hunter Wilds to just bring everything full circle for me so I can finally confront the very creature that brought this series into my life. Number 9, Malzeno. Now, I know we literally just got this Elder Dragon with the Sunbreak expansion for Monster Hunter Rise, so it's not like some classic monster from back in the day, but for me this is one of my favorite creature designs in the entire series, and I would love to see how it looks in a much higher fidelity game like Wilds. I have always loved the old school monster tropes like vampires and werewolves, so to get a dragon themed around something like Dracula is a 10 out of 10 for me. It was such a fun fight in Sunbreak, and it had some of the coolest looking armor and weapons as well. I feel like Monster Hunter Rise in general gets a lot of unfair hate thrown its way, and I'm not saying it's a perfect game or anything like that, but because of that I would really like to see Malzeno get a second appearance here in Wilds so a larger audience can get to experience what I believe is one of the best monsters in the series. Number 10, White Fatalis. While the other Fatalis species are really cool in their own right, I personally feel like White Fatalis is the best of the 3 by far. Rather than just looking like a dark, scaly, classical European dragon, this ancestral dragon has way more interesting characteristics to its design. Its body is covered in brilliant white scales, its face and spine are lined with fur, it boasts these mystical looking antler-like horns, and oh yeah, it can call forth red fucking lightning, bro. Come on now, what are we even talking about here? How can you not be in awe of this thing? When I see White Fatalis, I don't see some regular elder dragon, I see a dragon god. I think it would make for the perfect, true endgame boss of Monster Hunter Wilds, especially because weather effects are being emphasized as a big part of the game. I would love to see how epic they can make this fight with all the crazy storm effects and red lightning cracking down upon the earth while you take on this divine, ancient beast. So, there you go folks, that's my top 10 most wanted monsters that I would like to see make an appearance in Monster Hunter Wilds. Let me know in the comments down below which creatures from the series you would like to see in the game. And do me a solid, if you liked the vid, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. And also subscribe to the damn channel if you want to see more of my content. We're a growing community here, and I want to recruit you to our monster loving cult. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.